Okay, so now that we've heard a little bit about the patch builder, the terrain manager, and the patch dispatch in this video, Lee's going to be implementing the patch dispatch.
Right, so let's go ahead and stop this from running. We'll jump back over to our code. And the first thing what we'll do is open up our threading. And we've got our Unity dispatcher. We're going to be copying this code for our builder, but we'll do that in the next video. What I want to focus on is going to be this Unity dispatch in this video. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go up into the train system and I'm going to paste it. Now this is kind of a one-off and it's very specific to the train generator. So I'm not going to worry about repurposing the way the Unity dispatcher and the Unity dispatch and use inheritance and do all kinds of crazy stuff with it just to make it multifunction, because I don't think I'm going to be, spawning off multiple copies of this for all different systems. It's, like I said, very specific use. So this will be our patch dispatch. So I'm going to rename it, open it up, and we'll rename patch dispatch here. Now, let's go ahead and rename it here. Kind of for Jason and a recap for everybody else. What this dispatch is it's a message. It's basically a way that we can wrap up some information, some queuing data, basically whether or not this particular message has been processed, if it's done, whether or not if we want to wait for it. It's going to deal with some signaling to let whoever has instantiated this dispatch to know that it's been completed at a later point in time. The reason we developed this system was because of threading, and we've had this discussion a couple times, Jason, where we're talking about how Unity with multi-threading will not allow Unity API calls to be called from anything but the main thread.
Right.
So what this system allows us to do is to take a thread, a non-main thread, a worker thread, if you would, to do some work that needs to perform some sort of Unity API call. That thread can then create a Unity dispatch, give it an action to perform, and then that gets put into a queue which the Unity dispatcher will then process at some point later on in time from the main thread. But then there's a couple of methods that will allow the thread to query whether or not it's been completed via this property, or it has the ability to wait. Two different types of waits. It can wait and check every millisecond whether or not it's been completed. So it basically goes, are you done yet? Are you done yet? Are you done yet? So the thread will sit and spin until this action's been completed. It can also schedule or wait, but go, hey, this isn't a big deal. I'll check back with you every half a second and see if you're done yet. So then you can set, say, maybe 500 milliseconds, and then check back every 500 milliseconds whether or not it's done, and then continue on. But if it's something that the thread doesn't have to follow up on, it can just send the dispatch and not worry about it.
Okay.
And just keep going. So with that idea in mind, this was a perfect case for dealing with the train patches and the fact that, hey, I've already got this baseline code in place. I can then take my train patch, and when it's told to create a patch, go, hey, I need to create a patch. And go ahead, send it off as a patch dispatch. Let the patch builder worry about when these patches are going to be created, in what order. So what we've done is we've broken away the construction of the patch to a whole different system that we can put the logic in for determining when these patches are going to be created. As we discussed in the last video, that's going to be basically the distance from the player and whether or not we're currently looking at it. And that will do those calculations. So, but because the fact that our Unity dispatcher works off of a priority queue, and we want to be able to have access to any one of these patches at any point in time, or any of these patch dispatches at any point in time, we can't use the priority queue. So I had to create a new type of dispatcher, which I called the patch builder. But because it's using a different dispatcher, it needs a slightly different dispatch. So we're still going to implement the UnityDispatch interface. We're just going to give it a different name, and we're going to give it slightly different functionality. The functionality that it's going to need in addition is it's going to know what train patch this dispatch is talking about. So we're going to have a train patch. Go ahead and add that. This will have a getter and a setter. So why are you not happy with that? Inconsistent accessibility. Probably because I need to give this nice, come on. Play fair. Give this public. Yep, accessibility. There we go. So now we can go back to our patch dispatch. That's happy. Now, I said that we're going to use a list in our builder, and right now we're using a priority queue. But because I still want priority to have some precedence in the construction of these patches, I don't want to get rid of the concept of that priority altogether. So I'm going to move it from inside of the dispatcher into the dispatch itself. So we're going to make a public queue priority. We'll call this priority. And we'll give it a getter and setter. Now, this will return our terrain patch dot priority. If you remember when we were creating our terrain patch, it had its own priority property.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just basically querying that property and returning its result or setting its value. So priority equals value. So that will take care of that part. Now, look at the constructor. So everything else should still stay pretty much the same. I don't think I've changed anything else inside of here. So other than my action, train patch, and is complete. So no, that will. Oh no, there is one other thing I did. I did force is complete equal to false. And I did that because there's the possibility of sending this back in, and I wanted to force it to false. So in case it was completed and it got resubmitted. So that will take care of our patch dispatch. Again, basically all we're doing is we're setting up the ability to figure out what terrain patch this patch dispatch relates to, and the way of still being able to preserve the priority. Because if I bring up the Unity dispatcher, which is what we're going to be implementing or modifying in the next video, you can see that it's using a priority queue to store the information. And a priority queue, just like a regular queue, is only going to allow us to pull out the next item in the queue. We don't have access to everything in the queue, and we can't pull things out at random orders, and we can't sort it. So the Unity dispatcher won't meet our needs. So we're going to write a new class to meet the to fulfill the needs that we need, and we'll do that in the next video.
All right, very cool. Well, with that, that is going to wrap up this video. Thanks a lot.